So good morning all of you. Let us continue with the Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So we had come up to Jonathan attaining his perfect speed, and they came back, and of course Chiang says he should continue to practice. So by the time they returned it was dark. The other girls looked at Jonathan in awe in their golden eyes, for they had seen him disappear from where he had been rooted for so long. He stood there, congratulations, for less than a minute. I am the newcomer here. I am just beginning. It is I who must learn from you. I wonder about that, John, said Sullivan, standing near. So pleasantries goes on. But then the day came that Chiang vanished. He had been talking quietly with them all, exhorting them never to stop their learning and their practicing and their striving to understand more of the perfect invisible principle of all life. Then as he spoke, his feathers went brighter and brighter, and at last turned into so brilliant that no girl could look upon him. Jonathan, he said, and these were his last words, keep working on love. When they could see again, Chiang was gone. So that's what happened. Now they are all on their own. They are trying to grow themselves by practice. And he was told never to stop practicing. So then Jonathan now starts feeling his love. So he wants to go back to the flock and teach them how to really fly. So he says to Sullivan, Sully, I must go back, he said. Your students are doing well. They can help you bring the newcomers along. Sullivan sighed but did not argue. I think I'll miss you, Jonathan. Jonathan says, Sully, for shame. And don't be foolish. What are we trying to practice every day? If our friendship depends on things like space and time, then when we finally overcome space and time, we have destroyed our own brotherhood. And that's how it is. So then finally he says, goodbye, Sully, we will meet again. And with that, Jonathan held his thought an image of great gull flocks on the shore of another time. And he knew with practiced ease that he was not born and feathers, but perfect idea of freedom and flight, limited by nothing at all. So now he is going back to his flock, and actually he meets other birds who are really keen to learn. And an inch from his right wingtip flew the most brilliant white gull in all the world. This is what the bird there sees. Gliding effortlessly along, not moving a feather, at what was very nearly Fletcher's top speed. So Fletcher is the guy who was met by Jonathan. Low and calm, the voice went on within his thought, demanding an answer. Fletcher Lind Seagull, do you want to fly? Yes, I want to fly. Fletcher Lind Seagull, do you want to fly so much that you'll forgive the flock and learn and go back to them one day to work to help them? No. This is the question. So like Indian masters also used to test your disciple before accepting them. So here Jonathan is asking that question, would you surmount all difficulties and still be willing to learn? So that happened, and then of course now we have reached the third part. Third part is where of course they all struggle and learn further and so on. And then of course the students of course get to disgusted because they are not able to pick up what Jonathan says. So one of them is saying, you are wasting your time with me, Jonathan. I am too dumb. I am too stupid. I try and try, but I will never get it. Jonathan looked down at him and nodded. You will never get it for sure as long as you make that pull up so hard. Fletcher, you lost 40 miles an hour in that entry. So it goes on, and then of course he keeps getting more girls, but then whoever comes is outcast from the original flock. So he was having difficulty getting students. And then a very interesting thing happens. The next night, from the flock came Kirk Maynard Gull, wobbling across the sand, dragging his left wing to collapse at Jonathan's feet. So this is what happens. Help me, he said very quietly, speaking in the way that the dying speak. I want to fly more than anything else in the world. Come along then, said Jonathan. Climb with me away from the ground and we will begin. You don't understand, said this Maynard. My wing, I cannot move my wing. Maynard girl, you have the freedom to be yourself, your true self, here and now. Nothing can stand in your way. It is the law of the great girl, the law that is. Are you saying I can fly? I say you are free. So that's where it goes. And as simply and as quickly as that, Maynard Gull spread his wings effortlessly and lifted into the dark night air. The flock was roused from sleep by his cry, as loud as he could scream. From 500 feet up, I can fly. Listen, I can fly. So, this miracle happened, and then, the whole scenario changed. The elders in the flock didn't have any voice. So what happens? By sunrise, there were nearly 1,000 birds standing outside the circle of students, looking curiously at Maynard. They didn't care what they were seen or not, and they listened, trying to understand Jonathan Siegel. So that's how the lessons continue, and many of them then attain. And now let us reach the part 4. Of course, there is in between how Jonathan also passes on to his thing and leaving it with the other people who are already there. So then we come to part 4. So part 4 is interesting, brief introduction. Part 4 is where it says what a religion is. Okay, so these masters have come and gone, and then what happens to masters? So after Jonathan Siegel vanished from the beaches of the flock, it was the strangest bunch of birds that had lived ever on earth. Many of them had actually begun to understand the message he had brought, and it was common to see a young girl flying upside down and practicing loops as it was to see an old one, unwilling to open his eyes to the glory of flying. So that's how it continued like that. And then, of course, it was a golden age for a while. Crowds of girls elbowed in upon Fletcher to touch, and one who had touched Jonathan Siegel, Fletcher. So this master business has started now. Go to upon Fletcher to touch the one who had touched Jonathan Siegel, a bird that now considered divine. Look at the divine word also have come now. In vain did Fletcher insist that Jonathan had been a girl like them all, who had learned as they all could learn. They were after him constantly to hear Jonathan's exact words. Gull Fletcher, they asked, did the magnificent Jonathan say we are in truth the idea of the great girl, or was it we are in fact the idea of the great girl? So very disgusted, Fletcher says again, call me Fletcher. He would reply, appalled that they would use this as a term of reverence upon you. And what difference does it make which word he used? And so on. So what happens is, this is what I also say, Bhagavad Gita is a great book, they say, so you keep a distance. You should stop keeping the distance and really practice the Gita. So then only you will really learn the greatness of Gita. I don't know, forget its eyes. Of course, another bird is now trying to find out. Gull Fletcher, did the sacred Jonathan Gull have grey eyes or golden eyes? Now trying to make him more and more divine. But more than one gull, finding it weary to practice something as difficult as pinwheel, flew home musing. The great one had purple eyes, not like my eyes, not like the eyes of any gull that ever lived. So they find reasons not to practice and attain what they had already attained. And then, of course, what happens? One by one, the original students passed away, leaving cold, dead bodies behind them. The flock, seeing upon the bodies held great tearful ceremonies over them, burying them under enormous cairns of pebbles, each pebble laid in place after a long sorrowing sermon by a deadly solemn bird. So that's how they become more and more divine. And then what happens next? They already started this business of church and all that. And now look, here the old, he had told his official local student, the bird that comes to hear you every Tuesday come for three reasons, don't they? Because they think they are learning something, because they think that putting another pebble on the cane is going to make them holy, or because everybody else expects them to be there. So that's you are expected to be in the church, so be there. Then it goes on like that. Do you? So the disbelief goes on growing that Jonathan could have really lived and he was so divine, it's totally different from us and so on. So do you honestly believe now that the great Jonathan Siegel flew 200 miles per hour? He has learned to fly instantly, but now even that is becoming a question. And faster, the official said, in perfect blind faith, and taught others to do so. So goes every fairy tale. But when you can show me that you can fly that fast, official, then I will begin listening to what you have to say. So that's what this new girl who is keen to learn says to him. So that was who? There was a key, and Anthony Siegel knew it the instant he said the words. He didn't have answers. So he goes on now to practice by himself. And then it goes on. So here, of course, he is finally coming across something else. So Anthony stalled, watching, forgot where he was, stalled again. I swear, he said out loud. I swear that was a seagull. He turned at once towards the other bird, who apparently hadn't noticed him. Hey, he called, as loud as he could. Hey, wait. The girl pitched immediately up on one wing, moving at tremendous speed, blazed back towards him. Anthony, in level flight, pulled hard into a vertical bank and stopped suddenly in the air, as a racing skier stops at the end of a downhill run. Hey, Anthony was all out of breath. What are you doing? And this new stranger says, I am sorry if I startled you. I had you in sight all the time, just playing. I wouldn't have hit you. No, that is not it. Anthony was awake and alive for the first time in his life. Inspired. What was that? Oh, some fun flying, I guess. A dive and a pull up to a slow roll, the rolling loop off the top. Just messing around. It is beautiful. Is what it is. But you haven't been around the flock at all. Who are you? Anyway, you can call me John. So that's how the introduction goes. And what does it say? It says even if this religion and everything has been formed, all the rituals have started, still when you are ready, the master will appear. So that is the importance of the fourth part. So how you read that fourth part more carefully, so you will understand how a religion is formed and how then you will get your guru when you are ready. So thank you for the patient listening. It's a little long, 14 minutes already. Bye then.